days because it's got to be so fun to see how much it means to so many people.
Oh my God! It absolutely is. I mean, there's nothing quite like that, and it's funny. There are writers, in town who kind of work in genre who I think on some level don't know what to make of the fans. And it's funny. They'll kind of let the fans kind of cut both ways.
Yeah.
One day they'll say, well, the fans really love,
Yeah.
And then the next day they say, well, it's what, like 1,000 people who like blah, 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 or don't like blah, blah, blah. And I think that, what's missing sometimes is that, kind of understanding as a writer that you have kind of a particular responsibility to your audience. And, obviously, responsibility number one is that, you do your job and you tell them a great story. But I think number two, that you understand that it's not about quantity. You're not taking a poll.
Right.
It's about the quality of the response. And honestly, it's like if you get one person, who reacts to something that you write and that you do, you don't take that person's name in vain, and you don't dismiss them either, because they've had an authentic experience, and and you kind of help to bring that along. And and my perspective on it comes from being a fan. I was like a Star Trek fan since I was a tiny little kid. I mean, my brother, had like a Star Trek fan club that he started all on his own. And he made me like an engineering shirt, for this club. I was 4, man.
You were 4 in a red shirt?
Report any Romulan or Klingon clubs that would spring up in the neighborhood. I swear to God. And I went to conventions and I did trivia contests and I did all that stuff and I, as a viewer, I was a huge fan of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the best Star Trek series, kind of up there with the original. And meeting Robert Wolfe, was to me a big deal. That was a big deal because I was that guy. I was that fan who sat out there and watched every week and dissected it and internalized it and had an experience with it. It adjusts your perspective. When I go to cons, there are fans of Andromeda that I still interact with and I know and I'm happy to see. And it's and I think it's the same with the Sarah Connor people. The Sarah Connor fans are amazing and they're wonderful, and what they did was simply astounding in terms of trying to keep the show on the air. And whether they were kind of being critical about, say, Desert Cantos, or really loving Born to Run, it doesn't matter. No, I cannot tell you how much I value the fans and kind of what they think of things, good or ill. And then, frankly, on some level, how much I don't care what they want, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like another rant, which is fans think they want a lot of things. And I know this because, again, I was a fan, and there were many things I thought that I wanted. and the reality is they don't want these things. As much as, like the John and Cameron crowd, right, the Jamerons, as much as they will say, I want John and Cameron to get together, I am here to tell you with metaphysical certitude, no, you don't. Because the second that they are together, your whole story just fell apart. Everything that keeps watching is gone.
What happens next week?
Yeah, exactly. What the fuck is that?
That's the most awkward That's the most awkward next morning scene ever.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, wow, that's what do you say to that? I mean, no, it kind of kills the show for you. It's like, and I know that like once people hear this podcast, some of the John and Cameron people, he thinks that like we just. Well, yeah, honestly.
Nobody listens to this.
And I love you, by the way, all of you people who are like, big fans of the John Cameron relationship. I do, but that's not what you wanted. And part of the job as the writer is to say, what's the story? What's best for the story? And then when you get the feedback from the fans, it's almost like a gut check. It's like saying, oh, okay, they responded to this, and this worked, and this landed, even if it was something they didn't like. Sometimes you don't want them to like things. Sometimes you really want them to think that Jesse is a bitch, until you turn around and go, oh, holy shit,